I want to talk about the big twist in the drama, and not just as a movie commentator, but as a public high school teacher of 10 years, because I think I have a perspective on this movie that could add to the conversation. So, big spoiler warning here. The twist in the drama is that Zendaya's character Emma drunkenly reveals that she almost committed an act of mass violence at a school as a teenager. And the movie basically turns into this absurd social provocation about how everyone around her judges her for something she only considered as a child, even though she didn't actually hurt anyone. As the story progresses, the movie jumps back and forth in time, and we see Emma's childhood to her adulthood as a lens to explore how people from all ages in the West are conditioned by a violent, performative, spectacle-obsessed culture. Now, I'm the same age as the character in this movie, Emma. I'm part of the first generation who is desensitized to mass violence in public spaces. My teenage years were going into the Donald Trump era as things were getting pretty bad, and I've been working as a high school teacher since 2016, as schools have increasingly become less safe. And before you ask me any questions in the comments, I refuse to make content about my students, so you won't hear any of their personal stories here. But what I will say is that, in my opinion, American schools have become a microcosm of the country. This past decade, Gen Z has been existing in a culture where violence is everywhere, emotionally, socially, physically, psychologically, and they haven't been given the resources to process it or prevent it from consuming them. What this movie is doing as a provocation is it's contextualizing a violent Western culture through these time jumps with Emma's character, watching her in her childhood absorb the culture's social and physical aggression, and we watch the consequences. Then the movie flips its commentary back onto its mostly adult audience in the theater in the hopes to expose the hypocrisy of a culture that conditions violence, judges it, indicts it, incarcerates it, and vilifies it, instead of actually trying to prevent violence or support the people who are dealing with it. The movie explores that hypocrisy through the treatment of Emma, who was never actually violent in this movie. She's someone who was clearly isolated and hurt as a child and is still frozen in that moment of her life, and now her partial deafness is basically symbolic of this societal induced harm that has permanently scarred her. And now she has to marry someone who has admitted to bullying kids in his childhood to the point where they had to move out of town, meaning she is figuratively marrying her bully, someone she never really knew. So even though my personal experiences gave me a clearer picture of what this film was attempting to do in deconstructing violence in Western culture, and there's certainly more to say about what it's trying to argue about violence in relationships or monogamy, maybe I can do another video on that, this is not a perfect movie. You have a controversial white filmmaker stirring up conversation by using and co-opting a black woman's experience to explore violence that is largely committed by white men in this country, which is objectively problematic and should be criticized as such.